Moments before his last breath, Boy whispers, "Amon." It was him, revealing an incredible truth. In the small town of Willow Creek, nestled between sun-drenched fields and the lazy bend of the river, there were whispers of a perfect life. Families gathered for weekend fish fries by the water, the sweet scent of grilled catfish dancing in the air as laughter sparkled like fireflies. For 12-year-old Jake and his mom, Rachel, each moment was a fragile thread woven into the fabric of their shared existence that shimmered with warmth and love, even as she tirelessly juggled 2 jobs to keep their modest home afloat. Yet, beneath their joyful rituals, shadows loomed a loss that clung tightly to their hearts. On a radiant Thursday afternoon, Jake dashed down Main Street. The sun warmed his back as thoughts of a summer picnic danced in his mind. But those bright thoughts turned dark in an instant. Tires screeched, metal crunched, chaos erupted. A car collided with a bicycle. He froze, heart pounding as if to shatter free of his chest. Time seemed to slow, and he could only gaze at the horrific scene unraveling in front of him. An eerie silence blanketed the crowd, more powerful than any scream. Days ticked by, but the accident haunted him. The town rallied together, supporting each other while whispers of blame drummed beneath the surface. Jake knew the truth. He saw precisely what happened, but fear wrapped around him like a vice. The thought of shattering their tightly knit community raised a knot in his stomach. The weight of silence grew heavier every day. When Jake lay desperate and unconscious in a hospital bed, Rachel barely breathed. Her fingers clasped Jake's, drawing strength from the warmth of his skin. Then he stirred, and through a fragile whisper, he gasped, "Mom, it was him." Those words rushed out like a stone dropped into an untroubled pond, sending ripples into her heart. Rachel's world fractured in that moment. She faltered, staring at Jake's pale face, grappling with the enormity of what her son had just revealed. If she chased the truth, it could shatter the fragile piece of the town that had nurtured them. But could she let it pass? Friends would become foes, and the bonds forged over fish fries and celebrations could unravel in a single breath. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into nights fraught with sleepless hours and unanswered questions. As Rachel wrestled with the moral tightrope of protecting her son while untangling a web of community secrets, she braced herself for the storm ahead. Would the truth ignite a crucial reckoning? This town, once united in joy, lurked closer to fracture than they all realized. As the moon spilled silver through the hospital window, Rachel contemplated the power of choice. The moment loomed like thunderclouds ready to burst. A late-night call broke the tension, the screen illuminating her worried face, an anonymous tip that made her heart race. Everything could change in a heartbeat, but at what cost? Would she risk it all for the truth? In that heartbeat, Jake's future and theirs hung in the balance, leaving her with one heart-stopping question. What price would they pay for honesty? Rachel sat up straight in her chair, her heart hammering in her chest. The glow from the phone lit up her face, casting shadows that danced across the walls like haunting figures. The voice on the other end was shaky, muffled by static and urgency. "You need to know, it's not just an accident. There's more. Meet me at the diner. Midnight." Her mind raced. Who could it be? Did they know Jake? Did they know her? She slipped the phone back in her pocket, glancing at her son's still figure. Jake's breathing remained steady, but Rachel felt the weight of 1,000 storms brewing in her chest. Every instinct told her to stay, protect her boy, erase the fear from her life. But the truth clawed at her, demanding to be freed. Midnight came slowly, each tick of the clock pressing like iron on her heart. As she stepped into the cool night, Willow Creek felt different, more alive with secrets than ever before. The diner, usually a beacon of warmth filled with familiar faces, loomed dark and quiet. She hesitated for a moment, but the memory of Jake's whisper pushed her forward. Inside, the fluorescent lights flickered, revealing a figure hunched in the back booth. Rachel's stomach nodded. It was Tommy, a gritty teenager known for being trouble. But tonight, he looked vulnerable, like the world had knocked the wind out of him. "Did you really see what happened?" He started, his voice barely a whisper, glancing around nervously, as if the truth itself was lurking in the shadows. Rachel took a seat opposite him, hands trembling slightly. "Yes, my son." He said it was him. The words felt heavy, and yet, like a spell, they drifted into the air. Tommy's eyes widened, and he leaned in closer. "Then you need to understand. He didn't just hit him. He did it on purpose. The cops, they're just looking the other way because of who he is." Anger flared within her. Who? Who are you talking about?" "Ethan Miller." The name hit like a punch. Ethan, the golden boy of Willow Creek, the one everyone adored, the pride of the town. Rachel's world tilted on its axis as she processed the depth of what Tommy was suggesting. How could someone who seemed so perfect be capable of such darkness? "Wait, you can't just say that and not have proof." Tommy's gaze hardened. "I saw him. I know things. If you want to protect Jake, you have to act. You can't let this go." Rachel's heart shattered and rebuilt itself in a heartbeat. Choices loomed before her, each one heavier than the last. Protecting her son meant going against the very fabric of their seemingly perfect town. But the thought of leaving the truth buried, that was an unbearable weight. "Rachel," Tommy whispered, urgency tinging his tone, "I need you to trust me. This isn't over." She took a deep breath, resolve hardening within her. She couldn't silence herself any longer. She had to fight for Jake, for the truth, for justice, even if it tore Willow Creek apart. As she drove home that night, her mind swirled with possibilities and dangers. She thought of Jake, resting in that hospital bed, and the life they both wanted on the other side of this storm. Could she rise up against everything she ever thought she knew? The question burned in her mind, urging her forward. Rachel was ready to unearth the truth, no matter the cost. Little did she know that the next move would set into motion a series of events that no one, not even she, could have anticipated. Rachel awoke to the sound of her own heart beating loudly in the silence of her bedroom. The sunlight seeped through the blinds, casting stripes on the floor that felt at once warm and chilling. She sat up slowly, each movement weighed down by the conversation from the diner. Tommy's words echoed in her mind, bringing a rush of anger and determination. He did it on purpose. She glanced at the clock. It was too early to visit Jake at the hospital, but her mind wouldn't be quiet. She needed to act, to find a way to make sure he was safe. Rachel swung her legs over the side of the bed, feeling the cool floor beneath her feet. Time to face Ethan Miller and the reality that lay ahead. After a hasty breakfast, though food hardly registered in her stomach, she grabbed her phone and dialed Tommy. It rang once, twice, before he picked up. "Yeah?" His voice was thick with sleep. "It's me. I need you to help me today. We have to find out more about Ethan," she said, urgency pushing her forward. "Okay," he replied, sounding suddenly awake, "but be careful, Rachel. You don't know what you're getting into. Neither do you." The words hung heavy between them, but Rachel pressed on. "Meet me at Kaufman S. Park in an hour." As she moved quickly through her morning routine, Rachel felt the familiar knot of fear and resolve tightening in her chest. What had seemed like a perfect town was crumbling under the weight of one big secret. The thought of Jake's innocence being crushed by a lie motivated her. When she arrived at the park, the sun was higher in the sky, but Rachel felt like she was walking through a fog. The sounds of laughter made her stomach twist. With every step, she considered what it would mean to confront Ethan Miller. It felt surreal, a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Tommy arrived, slightly out of breath, but clearly having ridden his bike hard to get there. "What is the plan?" he asked, glancing around as if expecting trouble. "If he is guilty, we need proof, something tangible we can show, something beyond what you say," Rachel said, a strategy forming in her mind. Maybe we can talk to some of the kids at school. They must know something. Okay, but I have a better idea. Let us dig a little deeper. If Ethan is who you say he is not going to stay quiet. The two of them decided to split up. Rachel would check the schoolyard and see if anyone had dared to speak about Ethan, while Tommy would hit the streets, asking around. As they parted ways, Rachel had an uneasy feeling. She was walking into something bigger than she'd prepared for. School was buzzing with chatter as Rachel stepped onto campus. She wandered through the hallways, mingling with the students. Most seemed oblivious, but snippets of conversations caught her ear. Did you hear about the accident? And Ethan S. not in trouble. Each word was like a nail, further sealing her resolve. Finally, she spotted a group of girls she knew by face. They were giggling, relaying some story that seemed harmless enough, but Rachel knew she couldn't skirt around shadows anymore. She approached, forcing a polite smile. "Hey, have you guys talked to Ethan lately?" she asked, her voice firm, tinged with an urgency they could feel. Their laughter faded as they exchanged nervous glances. He has been around, I guess." One girl shrugged, but Rachel noticed the way they shifted, their eyes darting away. "Rachel?" The voice cut through the haze, and her heart dropped. There stood Ethan, the picture-perfect boy of Willow Creek, with a smile like a mask. "I've been meaning to talk to you." His charm felt like a trap, ready to snap. Rachel squared her shoulders, ready to face him. "I think there is something we need to discuss." But before Ethan could reply, Rachel realized that their conversation and everything she believed about who he really was about to change forever. A chilling smile crept across his face, and Rachel felt the rush of dread cascade over her, hot and cold at once. What had she stumbled into? And what might Ethan do now that she had confronted him? Ethan's smile seemed too wide, too ready, like a predator who enjoyed the thrill of the hunt. "You want to talk?" He stepped closer, and the air around Rachel felt suddenly heavy, suffocating. "Yes." She swallowed hard, her voice barely steady. "About Jake." His laughter rang out, echoing off the lockers, drawing eyes from nearby students. "What about him? That doesn't matter anymore, does it?" "He on his way out." "Shut up," she snapped, her cheeks flushing as whispers began to swirl around them. She could feel their eyes, judging, wondering, and it fueled her anger. "You think this is funny? You think you can just ruin someone's life and get away with it?" Ethan leaned against the locker, crossing his arms. "Seems like I already have." The confidence in his voice made her skin crawl, but Rachel wasn't done. "You had something to do with the accident, didn't you? There's no way you could be that careless." For a moment, his facade cracked a flicker of something more feral behind those charming eyes. "Careless? You think this was an accident?" He moved closer, the space between them charged with a threat she hadn't expected. "You really don't know who you're dealing with, do you? Then educate me." Rachel shot back, fighting to maintain control. She was aware of the growing audience, but she couldn't back down now. Before Ethan could respond, a familiar face broke through the crowd. It was Brenda, a girl from their class, looking panic-stricken as she approached. "Rachel, you should know." "Not now, Brenda." Rachel snapped, grateful for the interruption, but frustrated all the same. But Brenda wasn't backing down. "No, you need to hear this. Ethan, he's not who he claims to be. I overheard him talking to some boys, saying it was all part of a plan. He didn't care about Jake. He was just," her voice wavered. "He was just messing around." Rachel's heart raced, a mix of hope and dread coursing through her. "You really heard this?" Brenda nodded, eyes wide with fear. "At his party last week. They were planning it." Ethan's expression twisted into a scowl. "That's a lie," he shouted, but the wavering in his voice betrayed him. "Why would she make this up? You think you can keep lying your way out of this?" Rachel's pulse quickened. She could feel it like a thread finally beginning to unravel. The students murmured among themselves, uncertainty creeping into their chatter. Ethan was losing his grip. "You don't want to cross me, Rachel. You don't know what I'm capable of. Try me." Rachel felt bold, emboldened by Brenda's revelation. "But you're not going to scare me anymore." Suddenly, a teacher appeared at the end of the hallway, the tension in the air palpable. "What's going on here?" he demanded, eyes darting between Rachel and Ethan. Rachel took a breath, ready to speak, to finally expose him. But Ethan snatched her wrist, his grip tight and furious. "You want tea? Tell anyone." "You can't." With a sudden pull, Rachel tore free and took a step back, heart racing. She could see the fear now in Ethan's eyes, that carefully crafted mask slipping away. "Watch me," she whispered. The teacher approached, oblivious to the silent war waging. "I need to know what's happening, both of you. Now." As she prepared to speak, Rachel glanced at Ethan. She could see the gears churning in his mind, panic settling in. What she didn't know was just how far he was willing to go to keep his secrets buried. And as her heartbeat echoed in her ears, she realized this confrontation was just the beginning. The revelations were about to shake their small town to its core. What other truths lay hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered? Rachel's heart thumped wildly in her chest, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She could feel the weight of every eye in the hallway, the collective attention almost crushing her. The teacher's presence felt like a shield, but she knew it wouldn't last long against Ethan's mounting rage. "Rachel, what is going on?" The teacher prompted, his tone firm, but confusion flickered across his face as he took in the scene. Ethan was on the verge of exploding, desperation flickering in his eyes. "I overheard him," Rachel stammered, her voice shaking slightly despite her resolve. "He was planning something that has to do with Jake." The words hung in the air, a bold declaration that sent ripples of murmured disbelief through the crowd. Ethan's features contorted, a mix of anger and fear, as if Rachel had struck him. "Don't listen to her," he shouted, and for a moment, he was the predator again, an animal caught in a trap. "Let us not make this worse." "Ethan," the teacher said cautiously, stepping forward. "We need to hear both sides. You're accusing him of something very serious, Rachel." Rachel locked eyes with Ethan. She saw the flickering light of panic dance across his face. There was something primal in that moment, as if everything was teetering on the edge. She could feel Brenda's anxious presence beside her, almost urging her on. "Serious? What's serious is that my friend might be dying because of him." Rachel felt the heat rise within her, driving her forward. "You don't know what he is capable of. He thinks he can just twist the truth and get away with hurting people." Ethan stepped back slightly, a shadow of uncertainty flooding his eyes. "You want to get away with this, Rachel," he hissed, his once confident demeanor faltering, revealing cracks in his armor. "You really think anyone will believe you?" But the lingering doubt only made Rachel more determined. "It doesn't matter what you think, Ethan. The truth is stronger than your lies. I'm going to make sure Jake's story is told." "Enough." The teacher raised his voice. "We need to discuss this in the principal's office. Rachel, I want you to come with me." That felt like both a lifeline and a threat. Rachel stole one last look at Ethan. His face was a mix of fury and confusion, and for the first time, she saw how unsteady he truly was. As the teacher guided her away, Rachel felt a flicker of hope ignite inside her. Maybe, just maybe, she could do this, but behind her, she could hear whispers growing louder, fueled by the confrontation she just sparked. Did you see how nervous he was? What if it really is true? Students were starting to connect the dots, and that could shift everything. Yet, as they turned the corner, dread washed over her. What would happen when Ethan realized just how far he might go to protect himself? The thought made her stomach churn. In the principal's office, every detail would matter. They needed to be ready for whatever Ethan had planned in retaliation. Just as Rachel and the teacher reached the door, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. She fished it out and saw a message illuminated on the screen. It was from Jake's mom. "Rachel, please call me. We need to talk about Jake." A chill ran down her spine. She could hardly breathe as she wondered what more secrets were about to surface. With a sense of urgency that pulled at her heart, she pocketed the phone, looking at the teacher. "I need to make a call. It's important." The teacher hesitated, then nodded, understanding the urgency. As Rachel stepped outside the office, her thoughts racing, She couldn't shake the feeling that they were all steps away from a deeper truth, one that could unravel Ethan and his twisted game. What would Jake's mom reveal? And what if Ethan wasn't working alone? The answers were waiting, lurking just beyond the shadows. Rachel leaned against the wall, her breath coming in swift, shallow gasps. Her phone felt heavy in her hand. The message from Jake's mom buzzed in the back of her mind, spiraling into possibility. She needed to know what Jake had told her, but the prospect of that call also filled her with dread. What if it confirmed her fears about Ethan? The hallway echoed with the murmurs of other students, but Rachel tuned them out. All she could hear was the thundering of her heart, a chaotic rhythm that matched her swirling thoughts. The principal's office loomed ahead, a sterile space that felt more like a courtroom than a place of learning. Pushing her nerves aside, Rachel dialed the number. As the phone rang, each beep felt like a countdown. She could almost picture Ethan lurking in the shadows, plotting his next move. She couldn't let him intimidate her. Thoughts of Jake pushed her forward. "Hello?" Jake's mom answered, her voice strained. "Mrs. Reynolds, it's Rachel. I got your message." "Rachel, thank God you called." There was a desperate urgency in her tone that sent chills down Rachel's spine. "What is going on with Jake?" Rachel asked, trying to keep her voice steady. A moment of silence filled the line. Rachel could almost feel the weight of Mrs. Reynolds' hesitation. "He's getting worse. The doctors are doing everything they can," but her voice broke and Rachel's heart dropped. "He's not responding to treatment the way they hoped. I really need to know what happened that night." The memories came flooding back, the broken glass, Jake's panic cries, Ethan's taunts. "I overheard something, Mrs. Reynolds. I think Ethan was involved. He was saying things about Jake that made no sense, or maybe they made too much sense." The other side of the line crackled with tension. "What do you mean? What do you know?" Before Rachel could respond, her eyes flicked down the hallway where she spotted Ethan slipping out a side door, his expression dark and wild. He looked furious, and his eyes locked onto Rachel from a distance, a silent challenge that made her stomach twist. "Mrs. Reynolds, I have to go. I'll call you back," Rachel said quickly, ending the call before she lost her nerve. She needed to get back inside to warn the teacher. Rushing back to the principal's office, she swung the door open, breathless. "I need to talk to you." It's about Jake and Ethan, but the universe seemed intent on testing her resolve. The teacher wasn't there, and the office was empty except for a couple of chairs and a hefty desk. Panic flared inside her as she darted to the window, scanning the grounds. Maybe she could find a teacher outside. And then she heard a struggle, muffled, coming from the hallway behind her. Shoving the door open wider, Rachel ran into the corridor, her heart pounding like a drum. She rounded a corner and skidded to a stop. There was Ethan, cornering Brenda against the lockers. The fierce look in his eyes sent a shiver down Rachel's spine. Brenda's expression was one of shock, and Rachel realized they were alone. "Get away from her!" Rachel shouted, her voice breaking the tension like glass shattering on concrete. Ethan spun to face her, his eyes blazing with fury, but something else lay beneath it, a flicker of fear. "This is your last warning, Rachel. Just drop it. You have no idea what you're messing with." "Maybe, but I know you're hiding something," she replied, her voice steadying. Suddenly, the gravity of the situation crystallized around her. She was on a precipice, one step away from revealing a truth that could shatter everything. "What if I told you it was worse than you think?" Ethan leaned closer, as if he had to share the weight of his confession. "What if it's not just me?" The air grew thick with tension. "What do you mean?" Rachel asked, her heart racing as Ethan's lips curled into an unsettling grin. Rachel realized that the shadows were deeper than she had imagined. The truth lay buried in secrets that were clawing their way to the surface, and time was running out for Jake. With a rush of determination, she stepped forward. "No, more games, Ethan. Tell me what you know." But just then, from the other end of the corridor, the unmistakable sound of approaching footsteps halted her. Was it the teacher? The principal? What were they all about to walk in on? In that moment, Rachel wondered if she had unleashed something far more dangerous than she was prepared for. Rachel's heart raced. The footsteps grew louder, echoing against the lockers like a countdown to a disaster. She barely had time to process the danger before her when Ethan stepped forward, blocking her escape route. "This isn't over, Rachel," he hissed, his voice low and threatening. She could see he was shaking, whether from anger or fear, she couldn't tell. But it was clear he was on the brink of losing control. Brenda, still backed against the lockers, darted her eyes between Rachel and Ethan, confusion and dread swirling in her expression. "Rachel, climb down," she whispered, though her voice trembled, uncertainty flooding her words. "No, if I back down now, Ethan wins. I won't let him hurt you, or Jake, or anyone else." Rachel's resolve steadied her, even as the palms of her hands began to sweat. She took a cautious step forward, keeping her gaze locked on Ethan. "You think you're brave, but you have no idea what you're playing with," he spat, not backing down. His bravado cracked slightly, revealing a flicker of vulnerability that only fueled Rachel's determination. But just then, the footsteps turned the corner. Miss Carter, their history teacher, rushed into view, her eyes wide with alarm. "What's going on here?" she demanded, scanning the scene. Ethan's expression shifted instantly from anger to faux innocence, a mask slipping over his face. "Nothing, Miss Carter. Just a little misunderstanding." He backed away slightly, his tension diffusing as he shoved his hands into his pockets, adopting a nonchalant stance. But Rachel wasn't convinced. She stepped towards Miss Carter, her voice urgent. "No, wait, you don't understand. Ethan knows something about Jake, something important. He was just threatening us." Miss Carter looked between them, skepticism knitting her brows. "Threatening? Rachel, let's have some sense. Ethan is a good student, good or not. He is involved in something dark." Rachel cut in, desperation overflowing. "Rachel, let us step outside," Miss Carter ordered, her tone firm but calm. Rachel could see the wheels turning in her teacher's mind. She took a breath, knowing she had to get Miss Carter to believe her before it was too late. "Please, you don't know what he is capable of," Rachel whispered, emotion welling up her throat. "He has hurt Jake, and he wants to keep it buried. This is not just me making something up. I know it." Miss Carter's eyes shifted from Rachel to Ethan and back again. Rachel could see the doubt there, but also an inkling of belief beginning to spark. "Ethan, tell the truth now," she commanded, arms crossed. Ethan glanced between the two of them, the bravado faltering again. But before he could finish, Brenda shouted, "Jake is in danger, Ethan. If something happens to him, you will be responsible." Before the weight of those words sank in, Ethan's facade shattered. "Shut up," he snapped, voice quaking with panic. "You don't know what you're asking for." "Oh, I think I do," Rachel pushed, her voice rising now with determination. "You think you can hide the truth forever? You're playing with fire, Ethan." The air shifted. Suddenly, the weight of their confrontation became palpable, as if the hallway itself held its breath, waiting for a confession, a revelation. Just then, Rachel caught a glimpse of Ethan's mask slipping away completely. What if it doesn't tee in well for you?" he whispered, his tone now low and cautious, almost pleading. "Then let us find out what it means together," she replied, uncertainty battling with her courage. Ethan's gaze dropped, a storm of emotions swirling in his eyes. For the first time, Rachel saw true fear, and it terrified her. "Don't come back to this," he breathed, his breath hitching. "There are things you don't understand, you'll regret it." Before Rachel could respond, the bell rang, signaling the end of the period. The sudden noise shattered the tension, and so did the arrival of other students filtering into the hallway, oblivious to the turmoil just moments prior. Ethan turned, and with one last look that sent chills down Rachel's spine, he pushed through the crowd and vanished into the throng. Rachel felt her chest tighten. The exposure left her raw and shaky, but something deep inside flared with new determination. No matter how dark the path ahead, she couldn't turn back, not when Jake needed her. "Rachel," Miss Carter's voice broke through her thoughts. "Tell me everything." As Rachel opened her mouth to speak, she realized that the fight was only just beginning. But would she have enough strength to follow through? The revelation that might turn all their worlds upside down lay ahead, waiting for her in the shadows. Rachel's mind raced as she struggled to find the words. "I don't even know where to start," she said, her voice shaky. Ms. Carter stepped closer, her expression serious. "Start from the beginning. How is Ethan involved with Jake?" Frustration bubbled up in Rachel. How could she explain the sinister web Ethan had spun around their lives? Jake got into something he couldn't handle. "I think it started with Ethan. They were friends, but it turned dark." "Ethan's bad news, Miss Carter." "Rachel," Brenda chimed in, her voice wavering. "I overheard them talking after school. Ethan mentioned something about a plan, a way to get revenge on someone." Miss Carter's eyes narrowed. "Did Jake ever mention who Ethan was after?" With a sigh, Rachel's heart sank. "He was being blackmailed. I found a note in Jake's locker. It hinted at something terrible, something that could ruin him." "Show me the note," Ms. Carter instructed, her tone shifting to one of urgency. "I need to understand what we're dealing with." "I don't have it anymore. I had to burn it when I realized it was too dangerous," Rachel admitted, her voice barely a whisper. It felt like the walls were closing in, the weight of her decisions pressing down on her. Brenda spoke up again. "We have to do something now. If Ethan S. involved, it's serious. We might already be too late." "But what can we do?" Rachel asked, panic rising in her chest. "What if they couldn't help Jake?" Ms. Carter placed a steadying hand on Rachel's shoulder. "We need to report this to the principal. It's not just a high school problem anymore. If Ethan poses a threat to Jake, we have to make it official." "Do you really think that will help?" Brenda looked doubtfully at their teacher. "What if Ethan finds out?" "He is unpredictable." Rachel felt a chill ripple through her. If confronting Ethan head-on had been nerve-wracking, this was even scarier. "He'll just lie. They'll believe him. He has always been the good student. Who'll take our word over his?" Ms. Carter sighed. "I know it feels like a maze, but we can't let fear keep us from protecting Jake. We must stand by what's right." The determination in her voice ignited Rachel's hope. Maybe they could rally support. "What if we gather evidence?" Rachel suggested. "What if other kids have seen or heard something?" Brenda nodded slowly. "There are others like Jake. We just have to find them." Rachel's heart pounded at the possibilities. "We could talk to Sarah and Mike. They might know more. We can't stay silent." "Good call," Ms. Carter encouraged, her eyes lighting up. "The more voices we have, the stronger our case will be." As they planned their next steps, Rachel scanned the busy hallway. It felt chaotic, yet beneath that chaos, she sensed a growing resolve, a flicker of courage igniting within her. She thought of Jake, trapped somewhere in the depths of fear and danger. And for the first time since this mess began, she felt like they had a fighting chance. Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She fished it out, glancing at the screen. It was a message from Jake's number, but the words twisted her stomach in knots. "Rachel, I need you. Come find me." "What's wrong?" Brenda noticed the change in Rachel's expression. "It's Jake," Rachel breathed, urgency surging through her veins. "He needs us." They exchanged a determined look, and as they raced down the corridor, every second felt like a lifetime. Would they get to Jake in time? Was it truly Ethan who held the key to his fate? Suddenly, everything felt impossibly real, each heartbeat a reminder of the danger that lay ahead. In that moment, Rachel realized that the shadows they'd only begun to explore were about to reveal their darkest truth. The hallway blurred as Rachel sprinted, her thoughts swirling in a chaotic whirlwind. Each echo of her footsteps felt like a shot of adrenaline, pushing her to move faster, to reach Jake before it was too late. She could hardly process the notes from earlier, the blackmail, the revenge plot, everything cascading down on her like an avalanche. Where could he be? Brenda gasped beside her, barely keeping pace. "I don't know. I was just thinking the old warehouse by the tracks," Rachel replied, her heart pounding louder than her feet against the floor. It felt like the right choice. It was isolated, hidden, the perfect hideout for someone too afraid to come out into the light. What if he with Ethan? Brenda's voice trembled slightly, and Rachel felt a pang of fear course through her. Wouldn't he go there? Not if he knew Ethan was looking for him. "We have to hurry." They burst out of the school building, the crisp air hitting them like a wave. Rachel inhaled deeply, momentarily grounded by the fresh scent of autumn. But reality soon crashed back in. They had no idea what awaited them. "Wait," Miss Carter called after them, her voice sharp. "I'm coming." She had jogged up beside them, her determination etched into her features. "You need someone to stay safe." Rachel glanced at her, gratitude flooding her heart. "Thank you, but time is running out." "We have to, I know," Miss Carter cut in, a steely resolve in her eyes. "But we need to think. If Ethan is dangerous, we can't go into this blind. We should strategize." Rachel wanted to argue, wanted to dash to the warehouse and save Jake, but the logic in Ms. Carter's words anchored her. They needed a plan. "Okay, what do we do?" Ms. Carter took a breath. "Let us find out if Jake has left any clues. Maybe his friends have seen something that can lead us to him. We need to gather information." Sarah and Mike, Brenda nodded eagerly. "They must know something. I'll text them." As Brenda typed furiously, Rachel felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Was Jake healthy? Was he safe? The urgency swelled like a storm in her heart, pushing her to act. She kept glancing back towards the school, the direction of the warehouse, a palpable force pulling her forward. Minutes felt like hours as they made their way toward the nearby park, where Sarah often hung out after school. The leaves crunched beneath their feet, the world around them feeling oddly calm compared to the tempest within. Suddenly, Brenda paused mid-text, her eyes wide. "Oh no, I just realized. Jake left for the store right before I texted him. He might still be there." Rachel's thoughts spiraled. "What store?" "The one near the highway. That's south too close to Ethan's turf. Why would he go there?" Miss Carter frowned, glancing at her watch. Maybe he thought Ethan wouldn't look for him there. Rachel could feel panic setting in. They could be walking into a trap. "It doesn't matter," Brenda interjected, taking Rachel's arm. "We need to hurry." They dashed toward the store, the vision of Jake's face propelling them forward. Every step felt like a countdown, the environment whirring into a blur of colors and sounds. As they rounded the corner, Rachel spotted a figure in the distance, just outside the grocery store. It looked like Jake, but he seemed to be hunched over. "Jake!" she called out, her voice breaking with desperation. The figure lifted its head slightly, but it wasn't Jake. It was a kid from school, one she recognized but barely knew Mark. He held something close to his chest, staring back at Rachel with fear in his eyes. "You shouldn't be here." "What do you mean? Where's Jake?" Mark hesitated, his eyes darting around anxiously. He told me something before he ran. He said Ethan was coming for him." Rachel felt cold dread clawing at her insides. "What did he say, Mark? You need to tell me." Mark opened his mouth, but before he could answer, a loud crash echoed from the back of the store. Rachel's heart dropped. "Ethan," she gasped, realizing they might already be too late. They had to face him. Would they find Jake in time, or was it already the last thread of their desperate hope? The back of the grocery store was cloaked in shadows, where the neon lights flickered uncertainly. Rachel felt a chill creep up her spine. "Jake!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the air as they raced toward the source of the crash. Beads of sweat formed on her forehead, mixing with the fear surging through her veins. "Rachel, wait," Miss Carter called, but adrenaline fueled her legs like jet fuel. They had to reach him before Ethan did. As they reached the double doors leading to the stockroom, the scene erupted into chaos. Boxes were strewn across the floor, and in the middle of it all stood Ethan, his posture tense, face flushed with rage. And there, just beyond him, Jake was huddled against the wall, breathing heavily, eyes wide and terrified. "Get away from him," Rachel yelled, stepping forward defiantly. Ethan turned, surprise flashing across his features. His bravado cracked, and for an instant, the playful monster appeared vulnerable. But that faded quickly. "This is none of your business, Rachel," he sneered. "Stop it. Just stop. You think you can intimidate us forever?" Rachel felt the fire burning brighter within her. She stepped forward. "You're nothing but a coward. You hurt my son, and you'll face the consequences." Miss Carter moved beside Rachel, her presence a shield. "Ethan, this ends now," she commanded. "You're in serious trouble." You need to back off. The fear in Jake's eyes deepened, his breathing rapid and shallow. Ethan, please, Jake's voice trembled. I didn't mean to just stop. Too late for that now. Jake, Ethan's voice dripped with malice. You were too easy a target, and I don't like being made a fool of. Rachel felt a surge of protectiveness. He didn't do anything to you. You're the one who chose to hurt him. She took another step forward, determination clawing at her heart. She needed him to see he was outnumbered, trapped in his web of lies. Suddenly, the tension in the room shifted, and Ethan's eyes flitted to the side. At that moment, the store manager strode in, arms crossed, ready to intervene. What is going on here? Jake saw his opportunity. He scrambled to his feet, bolting toward Rachel's side. I won't let you control me anymore, Ethan. Jake's voice broke, but there was a defiance echoing through it that made Rachel's heart swell. Run, she urged him, gesturing toward the exit. But even as she spoke, she knew deep down he would stay. He wouldn't abandon her. He would face the monster alongside her. Ethan recoiled as if he'd been struck. You think you can just leave? I'll have the entire town believe you're the guilty one, Jake. His eyes narrowed, dark like storm clouds. From now on, it's your word against mine. You're done lying. Jake snapped, stepping forward, joining Rachel and Ms. Carter. Everyone badmouths you, Ethan. Nobody is afraid of you anymore. The manager raised an eyebrow. You might want to check your friends, Ethan. They're not as loyal as you imagine. His voice reverberated, strong and challenging. It unnerved Ethan, and for an instant, Rachel saw his mask slipping further as panic took hold. Back off, Ethan shouted, but the fight was leaving him. The battle wasn't just about Jake anymore. It was spiraling beyond him, beyond Rachel, and it turned into a reckoning of their community. In that moment, something cracked between them, a realization that echoed louder than any threat. Rachel pushed forward, her heart pounding, every fight or flight instinct screaming within her. You're just one person, Ethan. You can't hurt Jake anymore. Jake stepped up beside her, finding his place, empowered by the truth spreading through them. We'll tell everyone what you did. You can't hide behind your lies forever. Ethan flicked his gaze back and forth between the three of them, panic now painting his features as he took a step back. You'll regret this, he warned, but there was no strength behind the words, only fear. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to hurt someone. Rachel's voice was rock solid, resonating deep within the confines of their bravery. And in that moment, Ethan's world began to crumble. The weight of accountability, the truth, and the support of a community threatened to crush him. He stumbled backward as the realization set in that he could no longer hide. Slowly, the conversation around them shifted. Other employees, witnesses to the confrontation, began to filter in. Whispers rippled throughout the crowd, uncertain, incredulous, but alive with the possibility of truth. Let us go, Ms. Carter urged as the tide began to shift, moving them toward the exit where brighter, safer light beckoned. As they stepped back into the open space, Rachel could feel the weight start to lift, not just for herself, but for Jake too. Together, they faced not just Ethan, but their entire community, ready to reclaim their story. Rachel squeezed Jake's shoulder, filaments of strength threading through them, knowing this moment was the beginning not just of their fight, but their healing. Leaving this part of the darkness behind, they stepped into the light. The truth would shine through, illuminating everything they had been through, freeing the town from its fear and tearing down the shadows that loomed. This isn't over, Rachel, Ethan called, desperately reaching for the remnants of his power. But she'd already learned the most important truth, that standing up for those we love always holds more strength than shadows. As they walked away, the warmth of freedom enveloped them, the weight of honesty lifting the corners of their mouths into smiles of hope. The journey ahead would be hard. They were just taking the first steps toward healing. But together, they would reclaim their lives, united in courage and love. And at that moment, Rachel realized they had just started to rewrite their story, a new chapter filled with unity, truth, and unwavering resolve. Don't let this journey end here. If you felt inspired by Rachel and Jake's courage, then you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Drop a like, help the algorithm thrive. I want to hear from you in the comments. Share your thoughts and feelings about their remarkable transformation. And remember, share this story with at least 5 friends who need a little inspiration today. Don't wait, not even one more second to pass this on.